Hello again and welcome to another Reflections coming from the manse. This week we're looking at what have we learned in lockdown, what would we like to take with us after lockdown is eased. Today I want to talk about wisdom. Are we wiser as a consequence of this shared experience of going through this lockdown and dealing with the pandemic? Or have we learned nothing? So are we wiser? I think about 6 weeks after lockdown started, there were reports on the news regarding old Mother Nature, how nature seemed to be regenerating itself, coping admirably well with human beings being locked up. It's as though the planet took a breath of fresh air and the animals rejoiced that we were all indoors. And of course there were many news reports about that and sensitive and insightful articles about this and our effect on the planet. Of course, before lockdown there was lots of discussions and demonstrations regarding climate change and the need for human action and human wisdom about these things. And then come lockdown, some things just seem to take care of themselves. That nature seems to be regenerating itself when there's less human activity. And that's a challenging thought. Now, of course, lockdown's going to ease because we have to get on with life. Life has to go on. So we will return to some kind of normality. But will we take any wisdom with us regarding this as we go out? Well, we'll just have to wait and see on that. The Bible is quite strong on seeking wisdom and getting understanding. In fact, there's a whole section in the Hebrew Bible of the Old Testament that's called the wisdom literature. And the book of Proverbs is one of these books. And it stresses very much that life is about seeking wisdom and getting understanding. So let's reflect just for a moment about ourselves. Here in lockdown and about to go out into some kind of normality. Someone once said, and this was a few years ago and I've forgotten who it was, I think it was actually one of the stand-up comedians, although he wasn't making a joke with this, but he just made the point. He said that we're drowning in information and we're gasping for wisdom. In the modern world, we're drowning in information. We're gasping for wisdom. Is that an amazing quotation? Isn't it so true? We live in the information age and there's masses of it. We can get overwhelmed by that information. But information is not knowledge. We have to turn it into knowledge. And then the knowledge has to be turned into wisdom. But sometimes all we have is a mass of information, a mass of competing voices for our attention. And this is the difficulty. I found time during this lockdown to go back to the roots of my faith, and I've covered that in some of the reflections. There was one week I was looking at Paul Simon's song about still crazy after all these years, but changing the title to still Christian after all these years. And that's me. Through all the ups and downs, the twists and turns, the doubts, the struggles, I'm still Christian. And it's been a great opportunity for me to go back and to reflect on who I am, what I'm about, what this faith is about, and why indeed it matters at all. And a book I was reading recently said instead of the word information, put a wee dash between the in and formation. That the Christian is someone who's in formation. We're being formed. It's a process. So put the dash in that word. Information is what we're living in, a deluge of it in our modern life. But does it change anything? Do we develop from all that information? We need to take some time out to consider these things, to reflect on our experience of life. So put a wee dash after the N. So we are in the process of formation. We're becoming. The process of becoming. Who we once were is not who we are now. And who we will be in the future will be different again, because we learn, we grow, we change our views sometimes. And that's the exciting dynamic of life itself. But it's about thoughtful reflection on experience. Now, who would you consider a wise person that you know or have known? I can think of my grandfather. I loved being sitting beside my grandfather, listening to his wonderful stories about life, his time in the First World War, but also his time in the shipyards in Glasgow. And I'd love to watch him smoking his pipe, preparing his pipe, lighting it, smoking it. He always seemed so at peace with that pipe. In fact, so much so that when I was older, I thought I'd like to learn to smoke a pipe. And I tried and got absolutely nowhere. I had troubles learning to light it, and if I did get it lit, there was just a big cloud of smoke all over my head, and I certainly wasn't at peace with my pipe, so I gave it up. But he was wise. He would speak slowly and deliberately. He had reflected on his experiences, and I lapped it all up. Then when I was in the police force, there was a sergeant, an older sergeant, near retirement age. But he wasn't one of these authoritarian types. He wasn't full of his own importance. He was very good with the men, and he certainly was good with me. He used to take me aside, because I was a very young policeman, take me aside to give me advice. And it was meant in a very gentlemanly way. And for me, he was someone who had reflected on his experience as a policeman, and he'd learned lessons, and he had something to pass on. And then I always think of shepherds as wise people. Every shepherd I've met, and I don't mean farmers who also have sheep, I mean shepherds who, it's just the sheep that they have. They often speak slowly, they tell stories, and they pass on wisdom. And that's the way it used to be in villages. The elders would pass on the wisdom to others. James Rebank, the shepherd, who's written the book A Shepherd's Story, or Shepherd's Life, sorry, he talks about how it was his grandfather who taught him shepherding. And then when he had children, he noticed that his dad taught the grandchildren, because he had time to do it. And in Africa, they say that it takes a whole village to raise a child, because the elders in these traditions have importance. But we've bypassed all that. Our young folk get most of their information from the internet. And that's what it is. It's information. It's not wisdom. It's not lived experience. And we're missing that dimension, it seems to me, in our society. So if you know somebody who is wise, then spend more time with them. And spend some time reflecting on your life and your experience. What have you learned that you would like to pass on to others? And what have other people passed on to you that you need to do some work on in relation to earthing it in your own life? Let's seek wisdom and get understanding. Once again, thank you for watching and listening. See you tomorrow.